All righty, good evening, everyone. Once again, good evening. See people coming in. We'll give them just a few minutes, but welcome. We're very excited to have you here tonight with us. If you are here tonight, you have found yourself at the Academic Connect at APU for the Department of Psychology. And so, once again, we're very excited to have each and every one of you here. We have some special guests here in the room with us, as I'm sure you're already seeing, who we will get to hear from in just a little bit. But we'll go ahead and give everyone just a few moments to trickle in as we open up our webinar for the first time. My name is Thomas. I am a senior admissions representative here at Azusa Pacific University. Way back when, I actually did take a minor in psychology, and so it is nice to be in the company of some like-minded individuals once again. But again, for those of you who are just popping your way in here, this is the Academic Connect for the Department of Psychology here at Azusa Pacific University. And so, a few housekeeping pieces before we go ahead and jump into all the good stuff that we have planned tonight. If you look at your Zoom screen on the bottom, you're going to notice a couple different icons, but the most important of those is going to be that little Q&A box that you see right on the bottom. And so what we'll have today is we'll get to hear a little bit from our two professors who are here with us today. They're going to give us some nice knowledge, some good know-how, maybe even some inside tips for what you can do as you prepare to study psychology today. But of course, part of our time will be a question and answer time. And so if something they say intrigues you and you want to hear a little bit more about that, or perhaps you're even coming here today with questions in mind, that's fantastic. We want to hear all about those. And so that Q&A box on the bottom is exactly how you'll do that. And so if you do have a question about anything at all, please feel free to throw that directly in the question and answer box at any time. And we will be sure to address all of those questions during our question and answer time later during our webinar tonight. And so again, thank you for showing. We are very excited for what we have today. And so you've heard a little bit about me as we've gotten started tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and let our two very special guests give a quick round of introductions for themselves before we jump into our good stuff. And so why don't we start with Dr. Shelton and then Dr. Eklund. As soon as he's finished, please feel free to jump in and introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, hi, welcome everybody. Excited to be here with you. My name is Andrew Shelton. I'm a professor in the psychology department, and I'm trained as a counseling psychologist. So I trained to do clinical work and research, and but have a passion for teaching and mentoring, and that's what I love probably the most about being here at APU. Let's see, I teach in, we have our undergraduate program, which is why all of you are here, but I also teach in our graduate programs in research psychology, counseling psychology, and child life. You'll hear a little bit about that. Or if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer those. And then my research is on several different things on attachment theory. So I focus mostly on romantic attachment, but also think about families, parent-child attachment, positive psychology or positive outcomes and mental health, and how we understand those things across different cultures. So I've focused a lot of research on Latino, Latinx psychology. With my background is I grew up in Argentina and have done clinical work with Latinos in the US. So I've focused a lot of my research on that population as well. So really happy to have y'all here, and hope to answer some questions or talk about our program.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kathleen Eklund, and I also am the chair of the Department of Psychology and a professor in the department. And I also teach in all the different programs that we have at APU in the Department of Psych. So we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I'm trained as a clinical psychologist, and there are differences between clinical and counseling, not a ton, but enough that we have two different names for them. My area of clinical work has been in the area of working with children and youth and working with marginalized populations, LGBTQ and minority populations, ethnic racial minority populations. My research that I do is around issues of diversity. I focus specifically on diversity within Christian communities. So I look at Christian colleges, Christian college students, and how we think about diversity, how we approach diversity, how we think about justice, and how we build communities that are inclusive, and what it takes for our college students to become leaders in building inclusive Christian communities. So that's where a lot of my research focuses on. And yeah, so we're here to tell you about our department. So I'll be happy to do that when you're ready, Thomas.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, I'd say no need to wait any longer. I think the last thing I'll say before we jump into all the good stuff is just a reminder for everyone to be engaging with that Q&A box we have on the bottom. We are going to get to some really great stuff tonight. So again, if you do have any questions about that, please feel free to drop us a question in the Q&A box and we'll be sure to answer. Without further ado, Dr. Eklund, it's all yours.
Okay. All right, can everybody see the screen I just shared? All right, so this is the Department of Psychology. We are very proud of our Department of Psychology. We feel like we've built a really incredible department within the university. And if you're looking at other universities for the Department of Psychologies at other universities, I think ours cannot be beat. So our first thing I'm going to point out, and I'm going to point it out throughout this presentation, is our website. So psychology.apu.edu. This is where we spend all of our efforts to communicate, not all of them, because we also have all kinds of other efforts, but any communications that we send out through email or on Instagram or on Facebook or on our texting app, we put in our department website. So it's kind of our main hub. And as we go through tonight, I'll be talking about where you can find additional information on all of the things we're going to talk about on that website. To get into that website, you do need to have your APU login. So that's the APU email address the university gave you when you applied, or if you haven't applied, when you do apply, you'll be able to use that to get into psychology.apu.edu. And you'll find all kinds of useful information about our department and about psychology in general. So let me keep us going. Next, come on. There we go. So here's our department faculty. We are one of the largest departments on campus, and so we have a large faculty. We have faculty that are trained in all different kinds of areas related to psychology. So we have developmental psychologists, social psychologists, clinical and counseling psychologists. We have addiction psychologists. We have career counseling psychologists. So these are people that work with in universities doing career and university counseling psychologists. We have forensic psychologists. We have, what else we've got? We've got MFTs, we've got child life specialists, we've got research experimental psychologists. So we've got educational psychologists. So we have a large range of faculty who are trained in a lot of different areas, which is going to be beneficial for you as you come to APU and you start exploring career options. We have faculty, this is our full-time faculty. We have about 50 adjunct faculty that have all kinds of different backgrounds, sports psychologists, etc., that you'll have the opportunity to interact with and engage with and ask your questions and begin to explore your career options as you become more interested in different specific areas in the field of psychology. Another highlight of our department that we're extremely happy with and proud of and excited about is our learning communities. So when you come to APU, if you come as a freshman and you live on the dorms, you'll get to be part of our living learning community, which means we'll put you in dorms with psychology roommates, with psychology major RAs, and you'll be in 2 courses in your first semester, 1 course in your second semester that are just with the other students that you're living with and that you're learning with. And you'll have full-time faculty with small groups, 22 students in a class, teaching you psychology and kind of getting you anchored into the department and oriented to APU and life as a psych major at APU. So it's an exciting thing. It creates a bond and a community that will carry you through all 4 years at APU to really have those strong connections in that first year. We have now seniors we're freshmen in our living learning communities, and they still are great friends, roommates. They ask to take classes together. So it really is a fantastic experience. We have expanded that from our freshman living learning community to two commuter communities. One is commuting freshmen. So we know more and more students are choosing to live at home and commute to school. And even as a freshman, we want you to get connected and engaged. It can be difficult as a commuting student to really build a community. And so if you do choose to commute and you're a psych major, we're going to put you in a learning community with other commuting freshmen. And so you'll have the same thing that the living learning community has, except you won't be living together because you'll be living at home. But you'll have those two classes together. And then we also have a lot of social events where you get to engage with faculty and other psych majors to build that community. And then for those of you who may be transferring from community colleges, you only have 2 years or 3 years at APU, and it can be, again, when you're not living on campus, it can be challenging to build community. And so we've put our transfer students into a learning community. So your first year as a transfer student, you'll be in one class in the fall and one class in the spring with other transfer students in the major. And so that, again, builds community, builds relationships, gives you good study buddies, good hanging out buddies that will really serve you well to feel connected and engaged at APU. In addition, with all of the learning communities, you are taught by full-time faculty in those classes in small groups. And like I said, we have monthly events where you get to hang out with faculty. So in September, we had ice cream meet and greet. In October, we're having a Halloween party. In November, we'll have Friendsgiving. And in December, we'll have a Christmas event with the learning communities and faculty. So you get a great opportunity here at APU to really interact both in the classroom and out of the classroom with the faculty here in our department. So I look forward to answering your questions about this. This is a really exciting thing that we have in our department. Okay, the department. So APU has a mission statement. I'm sure you've read it as you were exploring APU. We also have a mission statement in our department. So our department is really committed to developing our students through scientific inquiry, experiential learning, personal growth, cultural exploration, and spiritual discovery, so that each student develops their potential and is prepared for where God is leading them to serve. So as a psych major, you're going to be prepared to be launched in a variety of different directions when you graduate. And part of our mission is to help you really grow and come to know your calling and prepare you for that calling, for the direction that you're going to go when you leave APU. So we invest a lot of time and energy in trying to build those mentoring relationships between you and faculty so that we can really come alongside of you and help you develop your academic skills, your spiritual and your personal growth, so that by the time you're hitting your junior year, you're getting ready to decide where you're headed. And then we can spend those last 2 years getting you ready for where you're going next. We have a lot of different degree options in the department. We have our traditional Bachelor's of Art in psychology, which is what you can get it's a traditional psychology major. So you come in, you take a core set of classes, and then you have electives where you get to explore a variety of different career trajectories through your elective options. We also have the BS, and the BS is set up to be more focused for students who are thinking they want to do research as a career or they want to go pursue a PhD. And so in the BS, you do the same core classes as the BA, but you instead of having a wide variety of options for electives, you're going to have more research related classes and more research experience classes that you're going to be taking to really prepare you well in your research skills for future research careers or for pursuing doctoral degrees in graduate school. And this would be a good one for anybody going into any kind of graduate research related skills. So that can be a PhD, it can be an MD, it can be if you're headed into, any of the STEM fields in grad school, becoming an allied health professional, if you're going to go to PT or OT, the BS is a good way to really make sure you have good, solid research skills as you head off to grad school. As Thomas mentioned, we have a minor in psychology. So If you get to APU and you come in as a psych major and then you fall in love with another discipline, you can stay in psychology as a minor and move into another discipline with your major. And our minor is very flexible, and it's set up really nicely to complement any degree and fit nicely into your 120 units that you need to do for your bachelor's. As a psych major or as a major in another department, you can also minor in drug and alcohol counseling. So you could be a psych major, BA or BS, and get a minor in alcohol and drug counseling. The minor in alcohol and drug counseling is CCAP certified, which means it's approved for, the curriculum is approved for you to pursue your certified drug and alcohol counseling credential here in California. And so with that minor, you would go out after you graduate, you do your supervised clinical hours. And after you finish a certain number of them, you can get certified at level 1. And after you finish more certified supervised clinical hours, you can get certified at level 2, which means higher pay, higher responsibilities, all from that minor. So the curriculum that you need for both level 1 and level 2 certification is embedded in that minor. So it's one degree that allows you to kind of graduate with a bachelor's degree and be ready to go into the field serving people as a drug and alcohol counselor. And right now, I don't know how much you guys are tuned into what's going on in the world and in the US, but right now we have a serious substance abuse problem here in the US. It's been escalating dramatically in the last 3-4 years, actually over the last 10 years, but 3-4 years especially. COVID was not great for substance use. And we also have here in California a need to decriminalize substance abuse, get people with substance abuse problems out of prison and into treatment facilities. So it's a growth industry, lots of work available in drug and alcohol counseling. So it's a nice minor to complement your psych major, so that if you were to decide, let's say, to take a gap year or two, or maybe you decide you don't want to do grad school, it gives you the education you need to go out and get a supervised clinical internship and hours towards certification. So I'll be happy to answer more questions about that during the Q&A. In addition, we have a variety of graduate programs. All of our faculty are involved in at least some of these grad programs. So we have faculty that are teaching in the research psychology, master's, child life, counseling psychology, with a specialization in children and youth. So those are 3 grad programs that are embedded in our department. And then we also have faculty that teach in other graduate programs in our university. So the marriage and family therapy program, the MFT program, we have faculty that also teach in the clinical PsyD program, organizational psychology, and school and educational counseling psychology. And so, so we have a lot of graduate degree options. Now, the really cool thing about APU is because we have both undergraduate and graduate programs, we create an opportunity for you in your senior year to try out grad school. In your senior year, you can take up to 9 units, which is 3 classes in a grad program, and you can double count those as electives into your major or electives into your degree, and start building your graduate transcript. So you get both graduate and undergraduate credit for those 9 units, those 3 classes that you can take once you reach senior standing. And it's a great way to, if you know, like you hit your senior status and I want to do my master's in counseling psychology and specialize in working with kids and youth, we can get you into those 3 classes as a senior. You pay your undergraduate tuition for it, then you apply to the grad program and you get in. And now, instead of needing 60 units of graduate tuition, you only have to pay 51 units of graduate tuition. And so it saves you money on grad school by taking those 9 units as an undergrad, and because those units double count to both degrees, your undergraduate and your graduate degree. So that's a great benefit. I know you're probably not thinking about grad school at this point, you're just thinking about college, but trust me, 4 years will go really fast, and this is going to be something that's a huge benefit for coming to APU. Talked a little bit about our drug and alcohol counseling minor. It is a 24 unit minor, whereas the psychology minor is only 18 units, but that is because of the CCAP education requirements. So it covers all the educational requirements to get your your certificate that will allow your curriculum certificate that will allow you to get your supervised hours and go for your certification. All right. Another unique thing about APU's psychology department is that we have a wide range of course offerings. So because we have a large department, we have a large faculty, we have the ability to offer classes in all of our different disciplines. And so we have more than 50 career-focused and applied learning courses that you get to choose from when you're choosing your electives within the major. So we have a core set of classes that every student takes, and then you have a variety of options for electives in the major. And so we've organized them by kind of career clusters, but that's so that you can, if you come in and you're like, oh, I'm really liking abnormal psychology, that's a required class for everybody. Let's say you like that and you're like, I think I want to go towards clinical and counseling careers. We've clustered them, say, well, if you think you want to go in that direction, here's some classes that would be good ones for you to take as an undergrad that will let you know for sure if this is an area that you love. Or if you get into 292, brain and behavior, required for all students, you fall in love with neuro. Here are some more neuro and cog related courses in the neuro cog cluster that you can choose when you get to your electives. There is no requirement that you pick a cluster. You can pick and choose from all the different 50+ classes that we offer to figure out what you're excited and interested in. But we do offer a very wide variety of courses for you to choose from that can help you really navigate where you're going and where God's calling you. Speaking of where you're going and where God's calling you, again, at our department website, psychology.apu.edu, we have linked more than 300 careers to videos and websites about the different careers that will talk about salary and education requirements and what do you do for that living in that job. There'll be interviews of people who do those jobs that will allow you to explore what kind of career options you can pursue with your bachelor's as your launching pad. And so we encourage you to start from the very beginning of college to, instead of, watching TikTok videos, hop on here and start exploring all the different career options, because I think you guys are coming into education at a time where we have technology that allows you to explore all kinds of career options without ever having to get out from behind your screen. Back in my day, if you wanted to explore a career, you had to go find somebody who does it, drive to them and interview them. Now you can pull all this up on the internet and find all kinds of options and really explore where you would like to see, what gets you excited and where you would like to see your life go after college. In addition, every student that graduates from our department has a internship experience. It's required experience, and that is towards the end of your time in your junior or your senior year. You'll take either a field experience course or a research experience course. Now, the BS students are required to take the research experience, but all students are encouraged to try both because both are really great ways to explore your interests in postgraduate life. And so in field experience, you go into the community and you secure an internship just like you would secure a job. On our department website, we have an extensive list of organizations that we've had interns placed in the past. You can work off of that list, or you can go find your own internship and build a new affiliation between APU and the community. You basically, just like applying for a job, you put out your resume, you call them, you ask who you talk to about a potential internship, and you go through the interview process and secure an internship. And then you're in class weekly with a faculty member who is helping you apply your psychology learning to your internship experience. In addition, in both the research and the field experience class, we're preparing you for your next steps. So if your next step is going out to the workforce, we're going to help you with building resumes, writing cover letters, and making sure that when you leave here, your documents represent you and your experience at APU well, so that you'll get those interviews for jobs. And if you're headed to grad school, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to help you build your resume or your CV and your personal statements and your cover letters for grad school applications to again, make sure that you're shining as you're getting out there and you're putting together the best representation of yourself on paper. So that happens in both research experience and field experience. In research experience, you don't have to go find a job in the community. It's not a job, it's an internship, but you don't have to do that. Instead, what you do is you study your faculty's research interests. And again, psychology.apu.edu. In our website, all of our faculty and their research interests, you can find them there. And you just look at all of our different labs. What are we doing in our research labs? You contact faculty that you think you'd like to be mentored by in their research lab, and they interview you, and you get into a faculty's research lab and you are mentored in research under their supervision. Again, like with field experience, you're meeting weekly for this class for the whole 16-week semester, or if you do 2 semesters, which we often recommend to do a full year of both experiences, it would be for 30, the whole academic year, the 30 weeks of weekly meetings with your faculty mentor, with the culminating experience with research experience of some kind of outcome, whether it's a journal article or a presentation at a professional conference. You're working with your faculty to complete a research project. And if you're headed to grad school, hopefully multiple projects, so that we can help you really build a good grad school resume or CV. So you'll get to know the faculty, not only informally at our fun events, but also in the mentoring relationships. Here are some of the research labs that we have. Again, large faculties, we have a lot more, so go to the website to see more of the research opportunities, but this gives you a sense of the variety of different kinds of research that's happening. So the cultural identity lab, that's my lab. The spirituality, stigma, and suicide lab, that's Dr. Curtis Lehman's lab. Attachment, positivity, and culture lab, that's Dr. Andrews Shelton's lab. He's here with us tonight. Center for Positive Psychology, I believe that's Dr. Dwi Wadani's lab. Academic and social emotional success for college students, that's Dr. Friesen's lab. Social perception, prejudice, and romantic relations lab, that's Dr. Collison's lab. So that's just a few of our labs that we have. We have faculty that have extensive research opportunities related to substance use. Research related to religion and social psychology, religion and clinical psychology. A lot of faith integrated research that goes on in our department as well. All right, back to the fun stuff. In addition to our learning communities being a base for social engagement, we transition you from those learning communities after that first year into the psych club, and then into the Psych High, National Honor Society. And so we try to keep you connected and engaged throughout your 4 years in the department. And for those that maintain a high GPA and are with us in our Psych Club for 1 year, you'll get invited to join the National Honor Society for Psychology, which is called Psych High. And that's a great thing to become a member of, especially if you're going to be applying to grad school. It looks very good on grad apps to be part of your National Honor Society. And I already talked about seniors can double count into their graduate program, 9 units in their senior year, and our department. So when you come to campus to visit the university, you're gonna meet the university representatives at the Welcome Center. The Welcome Center is at the very front of our department. So we're on the same floor in the same building as the Welcome Center. So you just continue through those. You come in through the double glass doors, you continue through to the single glass door, and you're in the psych department. And so come on by anytime. If you come to campus to visit, or you're just coming to like hang out with a friend who's already a student there, come by. Our office is open 9 to 6, Monday through Thursday, and 9 to 3 on Fridays. We have faculty available for advising at all times during that time. So from 9 to 6 on Monday through Thursday, there's always a faculty member there to talk with you. And 9 to 3 on Friday, there's always a faculty member there to talk with you. And so you don't have to make an appointment. You can just pop in and we'll have somebody there who can connect with you. Again, our website. Once you're a student here at APU, this is where we post internship opportunities, scholarship opportunities, fellowship opportunities, employment opportunities. We're constantly putting announcements. We have a lot of community partners that look to us for employment. So even our graduates, our alumni, they stay connected to that website. You keep your APU email, you still have access to that website because we're constantly getting asked to, could you let your students know or your alumni know we have these jobs out there? And it's everything from bachelor's level jobs to doctoral level jobs that we'll be posting on there for our students and our alumni to make aware of, because the community really values our students and our alumni. And I think that might be it. Any questions? This is the picture of our building. If you haven't been to campus, we're also right outside the amphitheater, which is a beautiful place to go and have class outdoors and sit with faculty and be mentored in the beautiful outdoors of our campus. So.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for that very informative bit of information, Dr. Eklund. And just to go off of what she was saying there too, yeah, as you can see in that picture, it is quite a beautiful building. In fact, if you've come to see APU before or have even driven by, that's actually the first building you're seeing right as you're driving there. So right there at the front and center, and we put all of you in there just because we think it's a wonderful building and a wonderful place. So yeah, as a psychology major, you get to call this home. But anyways, yeah, why don't we go ahead and jump into some question and answer times. I do see that we do have some of the Q&A, which is great. And so again, if you do have some questions based off of anything that was shared today, or perhaps something that you'd like to know just a little bit more about, that's exactly what this Q&A box is for. And so please feel free to drop those throughout our conversation today. All right, cool. And the first question, it does look like we could get input from perhaps both of you on this, but the question is this. So if I pursue a psychology related field in grad school, will I need a bachelor's degree in psychology?
Andrew, do you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah. It's not a requirement. There are prerequisites that are in the psychology courses that you would have to take, but it's not always a requirement to have a psychology undergraduate degree. I think one of the things that I tell students or encourage students is to think about your application for grad school throughout your undergraduate degree. And so majoring in psychology is going to help you kind of get exposed to a broad range of different graduate programs. And then you also are developing personal relationships with your letter writers. So the people that are gonna, one of the main components of graduate school applications is gonna be your letters of recommendations. So you can certainly do that without being a psych major, but it's a good idea to kind of foster those relationships early, or you kind of have to do a lot of work outside of class if you're gonna only take a handful of classes. I don't know if you'd have a different answer to that, Dr. Eklund.
So I would agree that it's not required, but there are prereqs. And then also those letters of reference are really critical. And I think if you're a psych major, you're set up really well to launch into non-psych careers and psych careers. But I know as somebody who has selected graduate students in marriage family therapy programs, social work programs, doctoral psychology programs, a lot of what the selection committee in graduate school is looking for in those psychology related fields is to make sure they want applicants who have had enough experience and exposure with the field that they're very, very clear that this is their calling, that this is what they want to be doing. Because if they accept you into a program that you haven't had much background in, and you decide you don't like it and you drop out, that's a big loss to the university that you've been accepted by. And so if you're not a psych major and you want to go into like MFT or a master's in social work, you need to make sure that whatever your major is, you're getting good field experience like our major offers, and you're getting the classroom exposure as well to the right content, that when a grad school application panel is looking at you, like if you have, let's say you have a bachelor's in statistics, and you're applying to a PhD program, that's going to make you really attractive. But if you're applying to a marriage family therapy program and you have no field experience and you have not had any kind of counseling clinical related courses, there's going to be a lot of questions as to whether or not you really understand what you're applying to, and it may make you less competitive.
And I'm going to add one more thing to that, Livy. That at least at APU, the psychology major gives you a whole lot of flexibility with other things that you can take, because a lot of the core classes also count for your general education courses. So most of our undergrad students, unless they waited until their junior year to declare a major in psychology, and often find that they can minor in something else, or they can have a second major, or they can take other classes outside of the psychology major. So I think that's another way to also think about it, is to do multiple.
Yes, thank you, Andrew, for mentioning that. I forgot to mention that. We got to get that in this presentation. We have 21 units that double count in our major to your general education package. Now, your general education package is 60 units. And so when 21 of those units count towards your major, which is 48 units, and towards your 60 unit GE package, that actually creates room not only for minors, but for other majors. So we have a lot of double majors in our department. We have a lot of students that are both honors and psychology, and we get kinesiology and psychology as well. And then, like, those of you who are thinking, I want to go to med school, being a bio or a pre-med major is usually a really rough way to get to med school, because getting a good GPA in those classes can be particularly challenging. So, being a psych major with a bio minor, where you're getting all your prereqs for med school, can be a great way to get to med school. And so I think a lot of questions that you may have about given what I want to go, what's the best path? I would say talk to your faculty, get a mentor and talk to them, because we can help you figure out your best way to get where you want to go.
Yes, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, I can't echo that enough, everyone. I think building relationships with your faculty is a huge part of the undergraduate experience, and ultimately discovering what it is you want to do with your degree. And I will even say that coming to a school like APU, where we have 4,000 undergraduate students, I mean, that is something that is readily accessible, and being able to have access to individuals like both of our professors here today and many more people like we saw on our slideshow is a huge perk to coming to a smaller school like ours. So seriously, take advantage of that. I can't stress that enough. But it looks like we do have another great question coming in the chat, which is actually kind of in line with what we're talking about with potential career outcomes. And so I'm not sure if either of you is potentially more inclined to answer this, but I'll just start out there. The question is, if I want to become a CPS fatality investigator, can, or I would even say should, I major in psychology?
Wow.
That's a really specific, I don't think I've ever gotten that that question. I kudos to you for thinking about that far. I think yeah, actually I think psychology is a great major, and I think our program here has lots of opportunities. Because of the graduate programs, there's a heavy focus on children and adolescents. And so you can, maybe not in the early years of your undergrad, but you can kind of focus in or select some of those specialized courses that focus on child development, child development, and then kind of focusing on maybe even medical settings for children, and then have a broad range of kind of content knowledge and experiences with working with kids. I also might have a strong reaction, because that's a really heavy field to work in. I think there's a lot of turnover for folks that go into that field. But it's also, I think we want good people in it, because that's a really important. profession.
Yeah. And I would echo that. That's a very specific and very heavy career trajectory. But if that is what you're called to, you may,
Yeah.
I would recommend being a psych major and maybe specializing in that. I just went back to our classes in the developmental cluster and the clinical and counseling cluster, and then maybe taking some classes in your senior year in our child life major, our child life master's program, because child life, if you're not familiar with it, they work in hospitals and medical type settings with often very serious situations. They work with kids who've been abused. They work with kids that are dying. They work with kids that, infants that are born drug affected. So they have a lot of engagement with some of those heavy topics that a CPS worker is engaged with. And then from your bachelor's, you may decide to go for a master's in social work and get your clinical social work degree, your LCSW, which would allow you to not only pursue that job, but have a backup, because again, like Andrew said, the burnout is pretty high in that kind of work. If you pursue your clinical social work, you can move into that and you can excel in that field. And then should you someday feel like you're being called in a different direction, you've got that clinical license to go into private practice or go to work for community mental health or other settings where you're not dealing with such heavy issues. So I think the bachelor's in our department, with all of our child emphasis and that ability to connect with the child life team, is a great launching point for that. And then we would probably point you towards the LCSW career track.
Wow.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
Edgar.
Yeah, well, actually, on that note, Dr. Eklund, I know that earlier in your presentation, you were touching on how there are some courses you can take at the undergraduate level that can actually go towards master's level courses, right? Would that, in the field of child life psychology specifically, would that be one of those areas where we're talking about now, where that would be a possible option?
Yes. So our child life master's is a 42-unit master's program. And so you get 9 of those units done in your senior year, and then you would just have 33 units left to finish your degree. So we have students who do that, and they finish their master's in a year. So they'll take those 9 units in their senior year, and then they'll start in the summer after they graduate. And by the following summer, they're off to internship and on their way to becoming a certified child life specialist a year after graduating.
Wow. And that, let me tell you, everybody that's here, that is a huge opportunity, just because not only are you going to save yourself a lot of time doing that, most grad programs will take at least 2 years from what we'll see, but you'll also save a lot of money because of that too. And so if that is something that you are considering, as even now you're considering coming to APU, maybe studying psychology, that is a huge asset at your fingertips. And so seriously, something worth considering if you are thinking even remotely about jumping into a field like that. That is a huge benefit that you have here. Great. Well, we have a couple other questions that we can touch on during our time today. And so why don't we jump into some of those? And so let's see here. Let's go with this. And so next question I'm seeing is, why should I choose to study something like psychology as opposed to sociology or even something like communication management? What specific advantages are there by choosing psychology?
You want to take this one?
You can take a shot at it first.
Oh, well, so I don't want to speak for, I know a little bit of sociology. I think that kind of overlaps some, or I kind of understand the field a little bit more than communication. But psychology, I think, gives you a lot of flexibility with the direction that you can go. Dr. Eklund was talking about, a lot of people think of counseling or therapy or clinical psychology, but also it opens up to working in an organization, right? Just that deals with people, right? Understanding people and problems. Whereas sociology tends to focus on large scale social movements and the study of that. And in terms, the way I understand that practical skills don't necessarily come from understanding large scale social movements. That's as much as I probably can touch on yeah.
Yeah, I could add to that. I think sociology focuses more on large scale systems. Communications focuses on either micro communications like family focused or organization communications like business focused. In psychology is, I'm sorry, I don't have a picture of one of our stickers, because psychology studies the brain. It studies this micro relationships. It studies the individual and how your personality is formed. And it studies the relationships, the parent-child relationship to the business relationship. So organizational psychology is that business systems. Family psychology is the micro family systems. And then we also study the large scale. So we have cultural psychology and social psychology, where we do study the larger scale systems relationships. So psychology, unlike or sociology, covers all of what we call the ecosystemic perspectives. So we go from the brain all the way out to mass society in our studies. So you will study each of the ecosystems in our major, whereas sociology tends to focus more on the macro systems, the large scale systems. Studies focuses more on the meso and micro systems. So meso is like your work environments and micro is like family, but they don't go into the brain and the individual. So we cover all of the ecosystems in the major, and you'll get exposed to each one of those. If you're in those other majors, you only get exposed to a few of those systems.
Right on. Great. Thank you. I know for me personally, I tend to be kind of a big picture thinker. So having those bigger classifications does help quite a lot. So thank you for that insight. Another question I'm seeing here is, if I want to do law and social work, what classes in the psychology field can I take?
Yeah.
Okay.
So law, my husband's a lawyer, and he was a psychology undergrad, and he now does mental health law. And so he finds that his undergraduate degree was extremely useful for his law career. And I think you mentioned law and social work.
Law and social work, yes.
Law and social work. So if you're gonna do law and social work, you might be doing family law. So there's a variety of different kind of areas that you might end up in, where a good foundation in psychology is really valuable, and you won't get in law school. You will not learn about family systems. You will not learn about parent-child attachment and parent-child relationships and what makes for healthy adults in those childhood stages. And in law school, you won't learn about schizophrenia, and you won't learn about schizoaffective disorders and bipolar disorders, which is the kinds of inmates my husband does trials with. And so he's doing trials in the prisons with mentally ill prisoners. And so that undergraduate degree in psychology, whether you go towards family law or you go towards criminal law, is super beneficial. But if you're not going to be a psych major, I would say come by the department. Let's have that conversation about what kind of law are you interested in going into, and we can point you towards the classes in your minor or in your electives in psychology that you would want to take. So it really depends on what kind of law you're interested in doing. Yeah.
I'm also looking at the classes and I wanted to highlight that these are clusters that are recommended, but you don't have to, you're not stuck with one cluster. So I think the family, but if you wanted to work, like you had the question about CPS workers, so the child and adolescents, but then also conflict management or cultural psychology would give pretty important foundational skills to where you can take those. But yeah, I think the business and community cluster might also be helpful. But I think this is another thing that really kind of depends on where you are when you're a student and where you want to go. And all of the faculty in our department are advisors, so you can kind of identify one person that you want to chat with, or ask the same question to multiple faculty members and see what keep that question, and then ask that when you get here, and then hopefully you'll get some consistency. And if you don't, then you can you can have a lot of information to make a decision for yourself. But I think that's another kind of really neat thing that I enjoy about working here, is that we get to work with students that have interests in all kinds of careers.
Yeah, right on. Great. To add further, just a little bit more to that question as well, what I will say is going back to what we have discussed a little bit earlier, is just the potential you have to even study other disciplines while majoring in psychology as well. And so for you who asked that question, I could see you potentially doing classes in some of our criminal justice department. That oftentimes goes well with things like this, as you are going to get more into the legal side of things while still getting your hard understanding of psychology and the brain, of course. And on the law side of things, I would even say we have a pre-law program here at APU where you could pair that with just about any major, psychology, of course, being one of them. And what's great about that is that not only are you going to get some of this hands-on mentoring that we're talking about right now, but you're also going to get test and interview prep for when you do eventually apply for law school. So this way you get to study what you're really interested in. You get to learn from some of the best what that process is going to look like one day. And best of all, by the time you apply to grad school for that, you're going to have a significant leg up on people who have not participated in this because you've had so much training leading up to it.
Yeah. Yeah. The forensic psychology class that is offered in the criminal justice department is actually a psych class. We developed it, but we had to turn it over to criminal justice because the faculty who teaches that is my husband and he can't work for me. So, so if you're a psych major or a criminal justice major, you could take the forensic psych class and it'll apply to either major.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, there's a pre-law society that I found out about yesterday. There was a student was trying to find a room in Wynn, and I learned about that too. So that's another great thing to get plugged into if that's the direction you're going.
Yeah. Wow. Love it. So all that's to say, everybody hearing all of these answers, is that there are a ton of different resources here at your disposal for things of that nature, but of course, things outside of that as well, depending on what you're really looking to get down to with a psychology major. So with that, we've got just a few minutes left, and so we'll get down to some of our final questions that we have for the night. And so what better way to jump into this section than this question? So Dr. Eklund, you talked a little bit about some career outcomes and just the wide range of possibilities that do exist with a psychology major. But I was wondering if you could elaborate on some more. In fact, maybe highlight some key career outcomes for graduates of the psychology program.
Wow. So we have alumni in all kinds of different fields. We have alumni that are lawyers. We have alumni that are medical doctors. We have alumni that are psychiatrists. We have alumni that are educators, that are teachers at community colleges and at the K-12 system, school psychologists, school counselors, organizational psychologists, sports psychologists. We've had some alumni who went into sports psychology who have just done very well in that field. Substance abuse psychologists. So I mean, we literally have alumni all over the place in all kinds of different fields. We also have alumni that go into business and they end up with MBAs and they become entrepreneurs and end up doing all kinds of different things. We've had alumni who have done very entrepreneurial things related to like mental health. I was talking with one alumni over COVID who started a telehealth mental health system and hires like now, you know, she's like hired like 50 mental health clinicians to provide telehealth services around the country through this entrepreneurial business where she just saw the need during COVID and built this great organization and is doing very well for herself. So I think because psychology is such a great launching pad to go in a variety of different ways. And the faculty here at APU, which is another thing that makes us different than like your R1 institutions. Like if you go to a UCLA, if you develop a mentor and a faculty, they see their job as turning you into a mini them. Whereas at APU, your faculty, what we're wanting to do is to help join you in your journey towards becoming you. And so we're not trying to turn you into little mini us's. We're trying to help you figure out what you want to be and how we can get you there. So we end up with students in all kinds of different places. I was talking with an alumni from like 10 years ago this morning who she's getting ready to go to grad school. So she has about a 10-year gap where she's been working in mental health and in residential facilities, and then went to work for the county in CPS doing a lot of like case related work over the last 10 years. And now she's off to grad school 10 years later, but has been very, very happy with her career choices over the years. She's just loved all the work she's done. And I'm guessing, I didn't ask her, but I'm guessing she's wanting to go get her school counseling degree because she's probably now starting to have kids and is looking at wanting to have summers off. And so she's going to leave the 12-month work year to the 9-month work year and go into school counseling so she can have a better work-life balance for herself. So there's just so many different places you can go. Andrew, we have a lot of students that launch into our not our doctoral programs, but doctoral programs around the country.
Mm-hmm.
We have students at Ball State and on the East Coast and all over the place that head off to doctoral programs in a variety of different doctoral career trajectories as well.
I think a lot of people who want to go into counseling fields end up talking to me and Dr. Eklund. So that's a big one. But also, into industry or doing research or working in like HR offices of larger companies are examples that of students that I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, with that, we have one final question before we go ahead and close up for the night. But before we get to that, I just want to draw everyone's attention real quick to our little chat box on the bottom. We have just dropped some very important links in there for your records. And so the first of those is going to be the link to our undergraduate application. And so if you haven't had a chance to start one yet and you are a senior, that's exactly where you'll find that. But even if you are an underclassman here tonight, we do utilize that same link each and every year. So be sure to hang on to that. We also have our link for campus tours in case you want to pay us a visit in person, perhaps speak with either of our lovely guests as well. That is available using that link there. And finally, we do have our UG admissions contact information. So if you have any follow-up questions as well, generally, feel free to shoot us an email or give us a call, or to even contact either of our professors at their own email addresses, as they have so kindly provided.
There we go.
So thank you so much for that, the two of you. And so as we close up for the night, our last question is going to be, what is one piece of advice you can give to our audience? I know that for me, when I was a high school senior, I had no idea what I wanted to study, where I wanted to go to school. And so for anybody that's perhaps in that headspace or is just starting to figure out what they may be interested in, what can you tell us?
Ask lots of questions and don't be shy. Don't be shy. People want to talk to you and learn about you.
Yeah, I'd agree. Talk to your professors, go to their office hours, get to know faculty. I will also say my son, who's a student at APU, he was at the Texas A&M football game on Saturday, which was probably the most exciting football game anybody has ever seen. And so he was visiting that campus, and 80,000 people at the football game, and thousands of students rushing the field afterwards and then going out afterwards. And he came back, and he, it's a very impressive, huge campus, lots of people. He came back and he said, I wouldn't want to go to school like that. Like the football team, I'd love to go to those games every week, but I wouldn't want to go to school like that because I would get lost and I wouldn't have the relationships with faculty. And he's not a psych major. He's film and business. He's got two majors, film and business. But he was like, I would not want to go to school like that. There's no way you could ever get to know your faculty, and you wouldn't get to build the kinds of relationships that he's been able to have. He's a super senior this year. So he's got 10 semesters of just incredible relationships with faculty that you can get at APU, and that would be more difficult in those big R1 type schools that if you're thinking about going to those, that is a challenge that you're going to face, is that you're in classes with hundreds, whereas here at APU our average class sizes are around 22. And so you're going to get to know your faculty, and then your faculty actually are available outside of the classroom to get to know you and help you discover your journey.
Perfect. Wow, what a perfect way to end our night on a high note like that. Well, once again, thank you so much, Dr. Shelton and Dr. Eklund, for sharing just a little bit of your wisdom with us tonight. But again, everybody who's here, feel free to reach out to them or to us at our UG admissions contact information, and we'd be happy to pick up this conversation where we're leaving off tonight. But with that, we hope you have a great night. You stay safe out there, and we look forward to speaking with you once again. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.